Hey gang, Ronan here. As you can see in this game, I'm playing the Tier 7 Imperial Japanese Navy cruiser Myōkō. I've been highlighting this line a little bit, the middle of this line. Aoba in particular, prior to now, and now the Myōkō. I may have mentioned in one of the Aoba videos that it can be very tough playing the Myōkō. It's a gigantic floating citadel, and you are often going to be playing against Tier 9 ships, which are, well, I think it's fair to say, generally, much more accurate with regards to their guns. Good example of that is the Iowa. You can see that if an Iowa is set up properly, or at least the way that I would expect it to be, it's pretty accurate, even in the long ranges. And the Myōkō does not have armor to be able to deal with that. So you have to be really, really careful. And I know I mentioned this, well, a number of times during the couple of Aoba videos that I've put out here in the last few days. In Myōkō, I think it's even more important to watch your angles, your range, and to pay really close attention to your detection radius, which, I'm noticing the aircraft get closer and closer. So I started turning out, and I'll continue to turn out. Because particularly early in the game, you can be an embarrassment to your team by getting clapped really early. Now you'll notice the firing arcs on the Myōkō are not what I would call great. To try to get all 5 of your turrets, you have to show a significant amount of side. So depending upon the game, there may be games where you just don't use one set or the other, forward or aft. This ship, like the Aoba, it's kind of a kiting cruiser. If you watch the other videos, you know what I mean by that. If not, just briefly, it means you're kind of running away and throwing things over your shoulder. And if you're forced into that position, you do have a couple of turrets on the rear of the ship. Give you 4 barrels, and your torpedoes. Now you'll get to see the torpedo arcs on the Myōkō here a little bit later. But you can see that I'm not in a hurry. I've reversed behind an island just to limit the number of ships that can put shells on me. Right now, Gneisenau and New Orleans, they can't shoot me. And that's kind of how I want it. RZ-39 takes out the Red Fletcher, that's a great start to the game. And I'm just patiently waiting. I know that there's a red DD in the Charlie cap. How do I know that? Well, if you look at the cap circle for Charlie, you can see that it's got a bunch of red. The little, well, I call it a diamond, is about, a little over half red. And you can see the Bravo cap's about 3/4 green right now. And that's what I was waiting for. Waiting for Kitakaze or our aircraft to spot the Skane. And that's what I was talking about as far as the firing arcs. You can see that I wasn't able to get all my guns to bear. The AA on the Myōkō, well, like a lot of things these days, it's pretty pathetic. But I do manage to drag down a couple of aircraft. And I'm just going to reposition a little bit and see if I can't get guns on something else. Now you'll notice I'm not really close to that island, and the reason that is that these shells are not what I call floaty. They don't have a really high arc like the US cruiser line, for example. So if you get too close to an island, well, you just end up putting shells into the island. So I'm not going to worry about, closing the distance, or I'm not going to get impatient. Is really what it boils down to. If you watched my last video on this series, I the last replay that I highlighted was an AOBA game where I don't know that I would say I got impatient, maybe a little bit, but I took a risk, and you really can't take risks in these cruisers. When you get to, well, maybe Ibuki in this line, you can do a little bit more of that, but still, it's Ibuki and Zao. These ships are just very squishy, and the shells that you're having to contend with are often gigantic. So best bet, stay back. Wow, how about that dispersion? Stay back and stay out of harm's way, and just try to spam your AG as much as you can. Now I've got Kitakaza's smoke here to be able to use, so I am pushing up, and I'm going to try and get some shells, and you can see I got detected there. I'm just looking for the sweet spot where the smoke will cover me, just to see if there is one. Right now I'm just aircraft detected. I'm thinking this might be a good spot for me to set up. As soon as the aircraft are gone, we'll know for sure. Yep. Now, in the old days, I never would have thrown these torps. But you can't do team damage anymore. So, why not? If these guys make a push, then they've got 6 more torpedoes to contend with. Now, in this case, they don't. But with only 10 kilometers range, I think it was worth throwing them out there. I have fire on the Scharnhorst. Just started one. Was it the Gneisenau now? And the aircraft are back. And here comes some shells. I got really lucky there with only 5,000 damage. And most players know that the Myōkō is made of glass and pretty easy to blap. But fortunately for me, I'm dealing with a bunch of German battleships back there who are not known for having particularly good dispersion or sigma. And at this point, we're down 4 ships. Bad guys are down 5 ships. We've managed to secure the Bravo cap early and just secured the Charlie cap. I don't think the Rune or New Orleans has much of a chance of retaking Charlie. I don't think they'll even try. Well, I'd be really surprised if they did. We've got a Colorado, Elan, Neptune, and Kitakaza there. I put some shells on the Iowa, but I think the Jutland is a little higher priority, so rather than potentially add to the fires on the Iowa, I put shells out on the Jutland. Now you can see I've got incoming shells from way back there. I think that was maybe the other Iowa. So I changed course, changed speed. I did not want to get hit by those. It is fair to say that could put me out of the game if I get blapped by a full Iowa volley from really any range. And our Lexington is just pointing out that if that Iowa gets much closer, it's going to get bad for him. And the Iowa is sunk. So, bad guys are down 6 ships. We are down 4. We've got 2 caps, although they are, with the Jutland's help, working on securing the Bravo cap. We've got our Z-39 and Kitakaza in position to be able to get guns on the Jutland, but my guess is that he's at the southwest corner of Bravo. We've got aircraft on the way, but I think our CV is going to focus the Iowa rather than the Jutland. Jutland takes out our Kitakaze with torpedoes. Like I said, definitely the priority. But not to the point where I would, put my ship at unnecessary risk. Now, having said that, I kind of have put my ship in jeopardy by firing, especially at this kind of range. It takes, upwards of 10 seconds for the shells to get there, and I've got an Iowa straight ahead. I have to hope that I'm angled decently against the Iowa and that the Iowa will not be targeted. But look, his guns are aimed. Well, are they aimed right at me or are they aimed at the KGB behind me? I think they're aimed at the KGB. Now that doesn't mean that they'll stay aimed at the KGB, but I think they were. Now definitely they are now aimed at the Z-39, I think. And I'm able to start a fire, and you can see the torpedoes coming in. He saved his repair. And his guns are not swinging back this way, so I'm going to continue to try to start fires. Need to aim a little bit higher. And down he goes. And with that, we finish off the Iowa and the Rune. And this game is really all over but the shouting. We've got almost 700 points. They're under 200. We've got 2 camps to their 1. And I know that I'm spotted. So you can see I've pinned the map, and I'm telling our Lexington that there might be someone up here, because if I'm detected, it's got to be a destroyer. And I think this kind of communication is really important. Now, you will apparently, I would say, I would like to say occasionally, but the reality is often you'll get ignored when you make those kind of comments. But in this case, Lexington was paying attention. He raced some aircraft over that way and detected the Asashio. Asashio was, I'm sure, hunting both the Lexington and the KGB. His torpedoes won't even touch me. And the CV detecting him means I could get my guns on him. And you can see the CV's just kind of lingering there. He's got the aircraft just floating there. I'm trying to finish off the Asashio, but you can see he's changing course. And he does throw torpedoes out on the Asashio, but I'm not able to seal the deal. Meanwhile, our Z-39 is racing for the Alpha Cap. I'm sure either gunning or getting torpedoes on the New Orleans. See, New Orleans is starting to turn out. So we've got an Hollande on one side, Z-39 on the other. This is looking really bad for the red guys. And I think as soon as the CV gets these aircraft back this way. Now, I threw those torpedoes in case the Asashio ran that direction. Although I think the Asashio is probably still hoping to get torpedoes on the Lexington. Yep, there he is. Now, this could end very abruptly. I think that's going to probably do it. So I'm going to say, really, I think this was a pretty typical game for the Myōkō. As I mentioned with the Aoba, help with destroyers, try to light fires on battleships from range, do what you can against cruisers, and try to stay angled so that you don't eat big shots from particularly battleships, but also from some cruisers. As I mentioned in the last Aoba game that I highlighted, I made a pretty serious misplay toward the end of the match, and a cruiser just crushed me with AP because I didn't have anywhere to turn. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got at least a little bit of something out of it. I really appreciate you spending a little time here, and I'll see you next time.